Boker Tov, Chevre, again, Rabbi Eric Solomon here in Raleigh, North Carolina, trying to give a little Torah each morning to our synagogue, Beth Meir Synagogue, and to all our friends here. Hope you're staying strong, holding you in my prayers. Little teaching from this week's Torah portion. So every week we read a section from the Torah. We're now in the book of Leviticus, called in Hebrew Vayikra. And Vayikra, one of my favorite teachings. It's one I've held close to my heart for a lot of years. So look, the third book of the Torah is called Vayikra. It's called Leviticus. And be honest, some kids, when they get their bar mitzvah portion for Leviticus, they're not so psyched. You know, Rabbi Jenny, I like to say, every Torah portion is great. We believe that. But we recognize, since the Torah portions of Leviticus deal a lot with sacrifices, and it's really a kind of a code book for the priests on how to do the sacrifices with the animals and how to bring them up, which animals are used for which types of sins, and how they're killed and how the blood is used, etc. It can get quite intricate. It deals with all kinds of aspects of not even just really sin, but issues of in quarantine, quote-unquote, ancient in antiquity, medical issues, etc. But what I want to focus on today is just the first word. So it's called Vayikra, because that is the first word of the entire book. And it says Vayikra el Moshe. And it basically says, and one called to Moses. It actually doesn't say, and God called to Moses, although that is implied, obviously. It says, and called to Moshe. And many rabbis asked, for millennia, why doesn't it say, God called to Moshe? That's first of all a question, a koshi. A second question, in the word Vayikra, that word, the last letter is an aleph. And for those of you who know a little Hebrew, the aleph is a silent letter. And what's peculiar in the Torah, this is rare in the Torah, the aleph itself is not the normal size of all the other letters in the normal word. It's a smallened aleph, and it's placed on an upper part of the block. So it kind of looks like a word Vayikra. All the Hebrew letters are the same, and then the aleph is small, and then on the upper portion, almost like an exponent kind of thing. And rabbis ask about this too. What's up with this small aleph? And one of my favorite teachings about this really is that when God calls out to Moshe in the beginning of this Torah portion, and you might say when God calls out to any of us, the call is the sound of an aleph. What's that sound? An aleph it's nothing, in a sense that it's a silent sound. It's like a still small voice. And when God calls out to Moshe, Moses' job is to hear, essentially, the aleph. So what's the teaching? In a sense, God is calling out to all of us all the time. The challenge is, can we hear that voice? And sometimes that voice is so subtle and quiet, it's the sound, quote unquote, of an aleph. It's a silence. And the way to discern what is a call from the Holy One and what's a call from somewhere else is really through a deep discernment and a listening to the quiet. Now, in this time, which we've discussed before, no one's asked for, I don't believe this is God sent per se. But I do believe it is a calling out. It's a moment here where character is being revealed. And I don't mean that about necessarily people, out in our society far away, or leadership politically or whatever, although that's true. I think for each and every one of us, this crisis is an opportunity to listen to what comes up from ourselves and what we can do in this moment how are each of us being called? And what is the response? Now let's be clear, there are natural responses to crises. Fear, anxiety. I've been critical of those people who are hoarding, but look, there is a Darwinistic instinct to protect one's own. I get it. In fact, a famous story in the Talmud, we'll discuss at one point, about Rabbi Akiva, who talks about walking in the desert with a friend. What if there's only enough water for one of you, not both? What do you do with the water? This is a Talmudic question for millennia. What do you do with limited resources when you're scared? But this is a call for us a quiet call, to give us a chance to rise up. Give us a chance, in a sense, to be like Moses, to be willing to hear it, to get quiet, to reflect on what's happening, and see how we can be like the Aleph and rise up to our higher potential on the upper part of the exponent, as opposed to the lower. So I leave you this morning with an opportunity to think about this week's Torah portion, as usual, Vayikra. Maybe today when you're taking a walk, maybe today if you meditate, when you sit in silence, perhaps when you pray, a chance to listen into the voices on the inside and to see what here is an opportunity. How in a way might God be calling me to do something that brings me up, brings the world up, and really rises to the occasion, as opposed to, God forbid, lowering. So I wish everyone, God willing, a beautiful day, a day of hopefully continued strengthening and courage, and perhaps even time to turn off the news, to turn off some of the voices, and to turn on, what can I do today to rise up to the call that this crisis has given me a chance to respond to? Boker Tov. Please, God, a good day for all. Litrot.